Chapter 7. The last dress Madame Abla made for me before she died was a sheer coal black gown with gold coins. Each coin was sewn on by hand and perfectly placed so they jingled with a soft, eerie music like distant wind chimes when I danced. When Prince saw it, he loved it so much he had the wardrobe people call up Madame Abla. She sent them some extra coins, and they made a jacket for him in the exact same style. Usually, when I arrived at work, I went in through the back, up the elevator, and through the kitchen to his office. So I was surprised when he told me to meet him in front of Paisley. I'd been feeling a little bummed because he hadn't called me for a day or two. My heart turned over when I saw him open the door to give me a big hug, proudly wearing the jacket. "Nice," I jiggled his sleeve. He kissed me and said, "Yeah, I know. Some hot belly dancer was wearing a dress like this, so I had to have a matching jacket." Madame Abla's dress can be seen in 3 Chains of Gold, an ambitious collection of music videos that come together in one film, directed by Randy St. Nicholas, Paris Patton, and Prince. The songs became the Symbol album, and the story about a great love affair between Prince and the Egyptian princess Mayte was spun off in a comic book. Woven through the film and its music are all the elements that occupied his mind in that moment, an enhanced form of storytelling that was operatic and held nothing back. The idea of one soul being born into the same circle again and again, his growing fascination with the sound and style of Egypt, and his growing fascination with me. Before Prince was in love with me, he was in love with the idea that we'd known each other in previous lifetimes. He loved that I was completely open to that idea and willing to spend hours with him, imagining in rich detail the joys and heartbreaks, the births and deaths, and the ultimate meanings of our past lives. One result of all that was 3 Chains of Gold. Another result was everything that's happened in my life since. The basic plot of 3 Chains of Gold begins with the assassination of Mayte's father. Convinced that only Prince can protect her and her 3 sacred chains of gold from the assassins, she searches him out and they fall in love. The epilogue ends with his rebirth, marking the beginning and ending of cycles of creation, and the announcement that from this time forward, his name would be the unpronounceable Symbol. For in the dawn, all will require no speakable name to differentiate the ineffable one that shall remain. I love the word ineffable, though I admit I had to look it up, and the idea that for some things, there are no words. As I tell this story, I find myself falling back on words that can't begin to express what certain moments have meant to me. Profound, amazing, beautiful, love. These words are said so often, they've lost their power. During this hypercreative era, Prince was searching for other forms of self-expression. A lot of that stuff in the vault at Paisley Park was created during this time. I never quite understood my role in all that until years later when I heard him tell someone, "Mayte made me more open. She makes it easier for me to talk to God." Rolling Stone referred to it as an existential time in Prince's life, because this was when he started actively questioning everything about the way the music industry interacted with artists. Ultimately, these questions led him to change his name to the unpronounceable Love Symbol, but that didn't happen overnight. It was a place he came to after a long, difficult soul search. The footage you see in 3 Chains of Gold was shot over the course of almost 2 years, beginning with scenes Randy and I created together in Egypt in 1991, when I was fresh out of high school, and ending with the filming of 7 on an LA soundstage in 1993. Prince continued to work on the pieces during and between the Diamonds and Pearls tour and the Act 1 and Act 2 tours the following year, which is a testament to his unbelievable stamina, because touring, how can I describe it? The most fun you could ever have while putting your entire body through a meat grinder. There were good times and bad. When we set out on the Diamonds and Pearls tour in April 1992, I was still well funded by my belly dancing money. But by the time we started Act 1 in March of 1993, I was broke and paying the rent on my empty apartment in Minnesota. What little money I had left I used to pay my phone bill because Mama's voice on the other end of the line was my life raft at times. Sometimes I splurged and got a salad or a basket of bread with Thousand Island dressing from room service. There were times I was hungry enough to sneak food from room service carts in the hotel hallway. I learned that tea with a lot of honey kept me sustained for a long time, especially when I put the whole honey bear into the bottom of the mug. That would be my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. On show nights, I couldn't eat anything before I danced because I needed to feel light. But afterwards, if there was still food on the crew's craft service table, I'd quickly wrap up a little meal to go and stow it with my things above my seat on the bus, so it would be there when I came back, ready to dig in. Like clockwork, Prince would call me just before we boarded. I'd get on his bus silently praying, "Please tell me we're eating." I was reluctant to ask him to feed me after the paydocking incident. That summer, we were in Minnesota shooting some footage for a music video, and Prince asked me to decorate a video cassette cover that he wanted to use as a prop. I went to Michael's Crafts and spent my last few dollars on beads and chains. I took them home and put the thing together, and then I sat there, looking at my empty refrigerator, my empty stomach, my empty bank account. I started crying, and I cried all the way to Paisley Park. It took every morsel of nerve I could scrape together, but shaking in my boots, I walked up to him and I said, "I'm leaving." Prince was startled, because in the time we'd known each other, he'd seen me in pain, he'd seen me sick as a dog, he'd seen me frustrated and upset, but he'd never seen me cry at work. "What's going on?" he asked, and I let him have it. I could be in Cairo right now making $1,000 a night. Instead, I'm here living on Triscuit crackers and water and spending money I don't have to buy fufu for you. I'm going home, and then I'm going to Cairo. Maybe later on if you— Hold up, he said, without raising his voice. "I don't even know how much you make." $300 a week, I said, "and my rent is $600 a month." He winced like I kicked him in the shins. "Let me make a call." "I don't want you to think I'm that person who's—" "You're not that person, relax." He got on the phone to the business office, and his voice was tight with irritation. "Can you tell me how much Mayte's making?" There was a pause, while he listened to the person on the other line. "Okay, I need to see a list of what everyone else is making too." The following week, my pay had been tripled. Daddy was proud of me for standing up about it, and I was glad to think that the net result was a significant pay raise for everyone. I knew Prince wasn't being miserly. He had so many people doing so many things for him. It was impossible for him to know what was going on with all the people all the time. Sometimes an individual he cared about had to step up and say something, and people weren't always willing to do that. I felt like an idiot that I hadn't said something 18 months earlier, but I was glad I'd proven my worth as a dancer. Being Prince's friend or girlfriend was not enough to keep you employed by him. I'd seen that during the Diamonds and Pearls tour. After a week in Japan and 3 weeks in Australia, Carmen and her band joined the tour and opened for us in the Netherlands and Germany. They showed her video for Go-Go Dancer before her set, and I thought the set was good. But the reviews weren't what one dreams of, and Prince wasn't happy with the audience reaction. As we were setting up for the first show at Earl's Court in London, word went around that Carmen's slot had been omitted. The Pasadenas and Shakespeare's Sister replaced her the following week in Manchester and Glasgow. Indra and Trio Esperanza did a couple of shows in Paris. Other than that, the tour played out with no opener. Carmen went home, and at the end of the Diamonds and Pearls tour, Laurie and Rabia were let go too. "Had to happen," was all Prince said about it to me. But I'm going to ask Morris to join the MPG. Morris, a.k.a. Mr. Hayes, had been around for a while. He replaced Jimmy Jam in the time and was co-founder of the house band at Prince's nightclub, Glam Slam, in Minneapolis. He'd been in Carmen's band on the Diamonds and Pearls tour, playing keyboards, including a bulky Wurlitzer that sounded like a whole orchestra in his hands. He's one of the funniest people I've ever known. Prince was always saying he should do comedy. Morris was one of Prince's most durable musicians and a longtime friend who stayed with him for 20 years. He was grateful and kind, and I never heard him complain or backbite on anybody. Over the years, Prince worked with a lot of different artists, and that constant evolution was part of the rare energy he created. I always operated on the assumption that my employment was seasonal, but I hoped my season would last a while. And more than that, I hoped our friendship would survive whatever professional ups and downs fate had in store. Romantically, I wasn't counting on anything. There was flirtation, but nothing below the belt. He kissed me one night when we were in Australia, and I let him know I didn't hate that, but I had no desire to be part of the harem. I remember a big party in London where Carmen was wearing a super cool little outfit with these sexy great boots, and Lori told me, I turned down that same outfit when Prince bought it for me. Now Carmen's wearing it. This took the bitch stole my look trauma to a new level. Ain't nobody got time for that, but my hormones were in high gear. When Prince sensed my frustration, he just said, good things come to those who wait. I was glad when Christmas time rolled around, and Paisley Park became the ghost town it had been the first time I saw it. This time, I was one of the people going home for the holidays, instead of a nutcracker mouse tiptoeing in when no one was there but the prince and the Christmas tree. Mama and Daddy were in Puerto Rico, so I went there too. Prince went to Miami to get away from the cold, but after a few days he called me and said, I'm coming to Puerto Rico. No, you're not, I laughed. No, I really am. The idea of him rolling up in the hood where Grandma Mercedes lived was kind of ridiculous. But the following morning, there he was. It was so strange to hear the jangle click of his boots on the tile floor where I danced to his music when I was a little girl. Somehow, the sound made me feel even more at home there. He met my grandmother and all the relatives, chatted with my parents for a while, and then went to his hotel. I went over to hang out with him that evening and found him sitting on top of the piano in his hotel room, looking out over the ocean. I can't stay long, he said. These mosquitoes are eating me alive. They do that. I climbed up and sat dancer style beside him, breathing the ocean breeze coming in through the open balcony doors. I've been sitting here thinking about it all day, he said. I'm going to change my name. To what? He indicated the cover of the album we'd been working on. But how do you pronounce that? I asked. You don't. Oh, okay. He smiled and touched my chin. I bet you're the only one who won't try to talk me out of it. We sat on the piano lid talking as the sun went down and the stars came out over the ocean. Years later in our wedding program, he wrote, all alone, staring at the ocean, he implores the heavens for an answer. What is the symbol? What does it really mean? A voice says to him, it's your name. He told me he'd heard this voice before when he was writing Purple Rain, and he knew not to question it. I asked him where he believed the voice came from. Was it God or an angel or some part of the subconscious? Maybe all those things, he said. Maybe the Holy Spirit. Maybe my own spirit. Sometimes freedom moves in mysterious ways, and in the end, it's whatever peanut butters your jelly. Most understanding of all is Mayte, his true soulmate, who simply says with a smile, I never called you Prince anyway. After the holidays, I went back to the Minnesota ice and snow, and we spent the rest of the winter making music videos. A lot of acts were doing live shows and direct-to-video compilations. Renting videos was still a thing then, and the market for music videos was hot. We were always filming bits and pieces, scenes and images that appealed to him even though he didn't know how or even if they would ever fit together. Some were done in location in Australia, Japan, and LA. Running on a beach, holding hands at the zoo, that sort of thing. But most of the work was done on the huge soundstage at Paisley Park. One day, there was a big hydraulic lift with a glass chamber on the set. Prince kept changing wardrobe going up and down this elevator sort of thing with fog machines billowing all around it. None of us had a clue what he was doing, but he looked cool doing it, so we just went along. The song 7 had been produced the previous year, and the way 3 Chains of Gold was unfolding, it was a natural climax for the story. Warner Brothers was getting behind the production of this music video in a big way. Let's put some money in it, Prince said, which was more about energy and time and thought than it was about finances. We shot 7 on a massive soundstage in LA. I wore my spectacular yellow Madame Abla outfit which had been properly cleaned by this time, thank God. Both our costumes were reproduced in miniature for 7 little boys and 7 little girls who danced with us on an elaborate set that featured the model city of gold. You can see Prince and me and our merry little group of mini-me dancers on the cover of the Symbol album. Everything I can think of that I love most in this world was in that video. These beautiful children, Prince, the rich Arabic-inspired music, belly dancing with my sword, rocking my beautiful dress, doves. Oh, I got to kiss a dove. Where do you even go for dreams after you kiss a dove? I love that Prince played an acoustic guitar in this music video. It was so rare to see him playing an acoustic guitar on video or on stage. People expected to see him shredding a sparkly Stratocaster or one of his many custom-made guitars, his iconic cloud guitars made by Luthier in Minnesota, and the purple love symbol guitar made by a German craftsman. But when he was at home or in a hotel or on the tour bus, he often played an acoustic guitar like the one John played when we were kids. The sound was soft and organic in contrast to the urgent blare of an electric guitar. The acoustic guitar is my favorite, I told him. I like that little squeaking sound when you slide your fingers up and down the neck. It's so personal. Between takes, he played it for the children. We spent half their union-allowed time laughing and monkeying around with them. Prince got a huge kick out of seeing me with those kids. The director rolled film on a lot of that, and recently sent me some of the unedited footage. Prince watching me dance with the little boys and girls, taking my hand, leading them toward the Golden City. He's looking at me in a way he had never looked at me before. There's so much love there, she said. You can see it. And I do see it. We look like a happy family. There's lightness in the way he walks away at the end, after he's let go of all his crap and slain these 7 selves who didn't know how to be with us. Words of compassion, words of peace. I can't explain it, but we changed during that shoot. There was a moment when I looked at him with tears in my eyes. All I could say was, "This is everything I love." He hugged me close, and then we went on with the job at hand. But something was different. One of the last shots we did was a close-up of his face close to my stomach, as I did hip work and abdominal undulations. The director called it, and we were getting ready to go home. Prince leaned into my ear and said, "I think it's time." "What do you mean?" I said like an idiot. "It's time. For you to get on birth control." People, here again, my face. I can't even guess what that looked like. "Oh," a nervous giggle bubbled out of my mouth. "How do I do that?" "You go to the doctor." Right, of course," I said, not wanting to tell him that I'd never been to the gynecologist and was terrified at the very idea. I won't go into the 1,000 deaths I died making the appointment, enduring my first pap smear and forcing myself to present the prescription at the drugstore, because I was almost 20 years old at that point. And I'm sure the 20-year-olds hearing this are doing some hard eye-rolling right now. You have to understand, I wasn't ignorant, but I'd had a traumatic childhood experience that made me extremely protective about that part of myself. I was grateful, then and now, that God sent me someone that was sensitive enough to be cool about it, even though he didn't fully understand exactly why I needed so much extra time and patience. A week or so later, I wrote in bold letters in my journal, February 9, 1993, not a virgin. And I drew a winking smiley face in the margin. It was a big deal to me. So that's all I'm going to say about it, other than this word of advice to 20-somethings. Patience pays off. One day not long after that, I saw a precious little Yorkie pup in a pet store at the mall, and I was powerless to resist. She was the size of a hamster, and the shop owner said she'd grow to about 12 pounds. She was skidding around on the slippery linoleum floor, not able to get any traction with her soft little paws. Her eyes were bright and full of friendly mischief. I took her home and named her Henna, because I'd seen an Arabic movie and loved the way the women did the henna on their hands while they were hanging around the harem, a scene that almost hit a bit too close to home. When I called home and told Mama all about Henna, Mama said, "Mayte, take her back. Take her back first thing in the morning. Don't get attached." I gave the classic answer any almost 20-something would give. "I'm an adult, Mama. I can do whatever I want." But right after we hung up on the phone, I thought, crap, I better take her back. Prince was a bit of a clean freak and probably wouldn't want a dog around. He had Paisley the cat, but never wanted the responsibility of a dog. I would be going on tour again soon. I hadn't even thought that far in advance, but when I looked into her little face, I just couldn't part with her. Not yet. I decided I'd keep her until it was time to go on tour and then send her to stay with Mama, who was living in Puerto Rico at the time. After the tour, I could go to Puerto Rico and fetch her, and wherever fate was planning to take me next, Henna could go with me. The Act 1 tour started in Florida in March 1993. 25 shows in 5 weeks across the continental United States, plus a couple of nights in Canada, and who knows how many of those after-concert jam fests. When Morris Hayes came in to replace Rosie Gaines on keyboard, I missed her ballsy vocals, but I loved Morris and the direction in which MPG was evolving, including more of the rhythms and vibes that brought out the belly dance flamenco fusion style that was second nature to me. Prince encouraged me to explore and take chances, as he did with everyone. So my role in the Act 1 tour expanded. More stage time, being involved in almost every number, meant I was working harder and learning more, and I loved that. It was up to me to bring the female energy. We opened with "My Name is Prince" and "Sexy MF," like kicking down a door. And then we kept that insane pace going for over 2 hours. Through most of the show, I was the girl, dancing hard and loving it, kneeling to kiss his guitar, feeling wild and sexy and free. Some of the choreography was the same as it was when Lori and Rabia did it, but I brought my own style to it, and it worked. The staging of 7 was created around me, beginning with a long Arabic solo and ending with Prince's cryptic declaration. "To whom it may concern, you must come to your senses. There are no kings in this world. Only princes." It was a different experience touring with Prince as his girlfriend. From the time I was little, I had always tried to perform at my highest possible level. But now, I knew that anything less than 800% effort would reflect badly on him. It was lovely, however, riding along listening to music he loved. He introduced me to Kate Bush and Miles Davis and so many others I still love. And you know, I didn't exactly hate staying in the A hotels with the full-on foo-foo. My love-hate affair with room service took an ironic turn. When I was broke, I'd scavenge people's leftover bread and Thousand Island dressing from carts in the hallway, because if I ordered my own, they would charge me $10 for the bread. When I was with my rock star boyfriend and money wasn't an issue, they'd offer it for free. But I cringed at the thought of ordering it because it reminded me of my past. I loved getting breakfast at the start of a busy day, but to sit in a room and order food is so weird to me. Get out and greet the day already. But of course, that was out of the question for him. When I'm traveling with friends now and someone suggests room service, I don't mean to stare daggers at them, but all we ever did back then was room service. Dinner out was extremely rare and took a lot of planning, which is why dinner out is so special to me. And I cherish a light breakfast out in the sunshine as one of life's greatest simple pleasures. In the old days, I'd hang out with him till the wee hours, but except for my initial visits, I never spent the night, even when things progressed to making out. After 7, I started spending the night with him and riding with him to the next venue. As we traveled, I was on the bus with him. It was lonely at times, but I didn't miss the drama, and I rather enjoyed being put on a pedestal, the cherished object of his famous and infamous romantic tendencies. He was particular and very protective of me, but I never felt like there was a lid on me or that he was trying to make me do or be anything I didn't want to do or be. This was my first real boyfriend, so I was tripping on all the emotional ecstasy most girls get out of their system in high school. Prince loved that I was so in love with being in love. I'd never had my heart broken, so I was open and unjaded. Any old trick in the romance handbook, a candlelit bubble bath, rose petals in the sheets, a sexy handwritten letter, none of the novelty had worn off from me. I was thrilled with all the small gestures of affection, and he enjoyed being appreciated. There wasn't much drama between us, but I discovered that, if anything, I danced better when I was mad, so we always ended up laughing it off after the show. Somewhere around this time, he wrote the song called Courtin' Time that came out later on the Emancipation album, and I was touched to hear an instrumental version on a concert video just a few years ago. Baby, now you're gonna know what it's like when a boy truly loves a girl. But all that was off hours. Our working relationship didn't change. He wasn't one for showing affection in public until after we were engaged. Maybe because he liked to keep people guessing, but mostly because when he was working, he was lost in the music and entirely focused, moment by moment, on the work. Raquel Welch could have been standing there naked and he'd never notice. Prince consciously surrounded himself with coworkers who were able to find and maintain that same laser-like focus. Take a look at what he's doing on that stage. He kept most of that stuff off the internet when he was alive, but now tons of footage is spilling onto YouTube. Performers can and do get hurt when they're operating at that caliber. Everyone has to have his or her head in the game. About 6 months after Prince died, I performed Seven in a tribute concert put together by his family. I was horribly nervous about the way it was coming together. People seemed to think we could do all this without a lot of planning and rehearsal. And they were right. I was silly to worry. I should have remembered. These people are the best. No one could walk in, rehearse for one day, and put on a show like MPG. Because all of us had been trained by this man, who took each unique talent and pressed it to the next level. The Act One tour ended in April 1993. We'd be at home in Minnesota for the summer, rehearsing for the Act Two tour. So before we started, I went to Puerto Rico to see my parents and fetch henna. When I got there, I found the most spoiled dog in canine history. She was dolled up with a little fountain hairdo, ribbons, and charms. Basically, my mother had replaced me with her. When I put Henna in her little carrier and put her in the car to go to the airport, Mama looked so stricken I couldn't bear to take Henna away from her. Mama, keep her. She's yours. No argument from either of them. They lived happily ever after for many years. Back in Minnesota, I walked into the first rehearsal and was stunned to find that the band was like a skeleton crew. Several people had been let go, including Tony, Damon, and Kirk, who'd been with Prince for almost 10 years. Kirk came back later on as a drummer, and Prince tried to orchestrate a soft landing for them all with Gold Nigga, an album that gave them a way forward without him. Truthfully, I wasn't a huge fan of it, particularly the song Johnny, which was this crude song about condoms. The first time I heard it, I wrinkled my nose and said, "What's up with that? My father's name is John. Your father's name is John. I don't like that." I couldn't understand why Prince would let TDK go. To me, they seemed like such an integral part of his vision for the band. When I asked him about it, he said, "I don't want guys on stage with me. Just you." Just me? I don't get it. Why would you change it when... Because it changes. It will always change. Maybe next year I won't have a band at all. Okay, but from a technical standpoint, how do you expect me to do all that by myself? You'll learn, he said. He'd already lined up a series of choreographers to work with me for 5 weeks. After that, sink or swim, we'd be on tour again. I trained hard for the rest of the summer, moving in ways I've never moved before, thinking about who I could be as a dancer in an entirely different light. In a strange way, hip-hop and belly dancing are natural cousins because of the muscle isolation that's necessary for both, so nothing about the choreography felt weird. The only thing that scared me was the stamina it would take to motor through that 2-hour show as the only dancer on stage. One day during rehearsal, Prince looked at me and said, "You know what would be cool?" What? It always worried me a little when a sentence started this way. I was just thinking about this dancer with bangs like... No, I said. You don't want to see me with bangs. I tried bangs when I was 12, and I feel like I'm still kind of emotionally scarred from it. They won't lay down straight. As soon as I start sweating, they curl up into weird little devil horns. You'd have them chemically straightened. They'd be straight. Maybe, I hedged. I guess they'll grow back. The next day I flew to LA to have a particular hairdresser cut and straighten my bangs. And much to my surprise, I loved the look. I couldn't wait to get home and show Prince. When I stood in front of him, feeling like Betty Page and Betty Davis and Joan Crawford rolled into one, he studied my face carefully. "Wouldn't it be cool," he said, "if they were cut like a V?" "What do you mean?" "So they'd come to a point, here." He touched his index finger just above the bridge of my nose, at the third eye. I suppose it's a demonstration of my trust in him. I let him take me over to the hair salon at his house. Yes, of course he had a hair salon at his house, doesn't everyone? He stood me against the counter. Close your eyes and stand very still. It was a strangely sensual experience. I felt his slow, deliberate breath on my face, and then the bright coolness of the sharp scissor blade on my forehead. One side, and then the other. Okay, take a look. I opened my eyes, turned toward the mirror. He was right. My eyebrows naturally go to a kind of a zazzy place, and I had them plucked and penciled to accentuate that. But now the subtle but distinct V created a cooler, edgier version of me. A look I'd never seen on any girl. Probably because I was looking at a woman. The Act Two tour started in England in July 1993. 27 shows in 12 countries in less than 7 weeks. I'd never worked so hard in my life. And the harder I worked, the more fun it was. Prince was so competitive and liked to see us compete with each other. So once in a while before the show, he'd call out, "Funk night!" This meant that whoever did the funkiest thing would get a bonus of 1,000 or maybe 3,000, sometimes even 5,000. So we were highly motivated to get out there and get funky. People did crazy things, often prompted by Prince's come on. Wouldn't it be cool if... I remember somebody climbing high in the scaffolding one night, scaring the daylights out of everyone. Tommy Barbarella used to fly around on a wire harness. Wouldn't it be cool, Prince said, if somebody just, shaved their head on stage? Mr. Hayes stepped up for that one. During the Diamonds and Pearls tour, I wasn't on stage all that much, so Prince was always suggesting to Laurie and Rabia, wouldn't it be cool if somebody did a stage dive at some point in here? They were not super into that idea. I'd see them gingerly approach the edge of the stage, tentatively lower their bottoms toward the crowd, and then retreat. Toward the end of the tour, I think at least one of them did it, but not very enthusiastically. When Act Two rolled around, I was out there on stage with a lot more opportunities, rocking the world in a bikini and combat boots, and I started plotting how to get that funk night cash. It took me a while to top those guys, but I saw my big chance one night in Berlin. The band was on fire, the crowd was in a state of frenzy, the lights were blazing purple and white and blue. I took a deep breath, started running about 12 feet from the edge of the stage, and dove out over the crowd. Like that old saying, leap and the net will appear. For a moment, I flew like an eagle. I corkscrewed in midair so I was facing the ceiling, my arms over my head, my body parallel to the earth. And then I hit the floor like a bag of wet cement. What up, Germans? Jeez. They looked down at me like, was ist das? As cartoon stars circled my head. I was back on stage dancing within 30 seconds, the undisputed winner of Funk Night. But the next day, I was as stiff as a tin man, and for weeks I had to cover the deep green and blue bruises with body makeup, along with all the bruises I sustained during the most demanding, rewarding, infuriating, exhilarating days and nights of my life so far. The next time I impulsively launched out over the crowd, the people below the stage caught me, lifted me up over their heads, and sailed me back onto the stage again. I was laughing, weightless, totally borne up by their love for what Prince had made of the new power generation. He'd created a symphony that was more than musical. It was visual and visceral and theatrical. You're not a backup dancer, he told me. You're part of the band. Your body is the instrument. By the end of the tour, I was stage diving like the Black Swan, and it became my thing for the next few years. I learned to look down first and gauge the depth of the reliability pool. If the people down front looked stony or stupid or weak in the triceps, I'd wait for some burly types to push their way forward. Stage diving is not for sissies. I got pretty banged up sometimes, and one night in Paris, some guy ripped off my shirt, But that's rock and roll. All in the day's work, right? Looking at moments from all this on YouTube or the old concert videos, people don't always appreciate the hard physical labor that goes into performances like these. It looks so effortless. Underneath our clothes, our shin splints and bruises told the real story. I was always slathering body makeup from my toes to my collarbone. It left a sticky amber ring in the hotel bathtub after each show. I can't imagine what housekeeping thought I was doing in there. We didn't talk about the pain we were in. Prince didn't complain, and I didn't see him take anything other than vitamin B injections, which I refused at first but welcomed later on as the wear and tear of touring life set in. Later on in his life, when we were no longer together, I heard rumors that Prince had had hip replacement surgery. This wouldn't surprise me at all, and I wouldn't blame anyone for turning to some kind of pharmaceutical pain relief if they've given as much of their body and soul as he did every time he stepped on stage.